Okay, thank you very much for coming and for joining us online. People in this time zone, people perhaps in other time zones. For the 19th of the 19 shiurim that make up our 18-hour shiur. And once again, I'm grateful to Orchaim for making this possible by hosting this. I'm grateful to Peter for managing the webcast. Peter's been here since 5:15 this morning. I am also grateful to the major sponsors of the event, the Weinbaum Foundation and David and Serena Kashitsky, who are sponsoring in memory of Riva Kashitsky, Zichrono Livracha. I'm also grateful to the sponsors for the various parts of the program. I'm grateful to Jeremy and Shauna McGency, who are sponsoring this last of the shiurim in the evening. This program is a fundraiser for our university programs, the ones that we do for the males over here at Yeshivat Orchaim, as well as the females at Ulpanat Orot. And I'm grateful to those who have made contributions in the course of the day online, and there are cards at the entrance to the building for those who still wish to take a card. Okay. Our topic is Selichos, specifically the Selichah that we will say, God willing, on Motzai Shabbos next Saturday night. It's called B'Motzai Menuchah. The Selichos are fascinating. These piyutim, these poems, are created with a vision of enhancing our davening. That's what they're meant to do. They're enhancing our prayer. For anyone who is awake now and plans to be awake tomorrow night, there will actually be a class I'm going to give. That will be men only, I'm sorry to say, but that's the rules of the venue. At Shomrei Shabbos at 8:30, we're going to be talking about the art of piyut. And the great debate that went on in the period of the Rishonim, the early authorities, as to whether it's good to include piyutim in the davening. The Rambam, who thought it was a terrible idea and said that they are foolishness and no one should ever include them, versus the position of Rabbeinu Tam and others in Ashkenaz, who said, absolutely, these enhance your tefillah, they enhance your prayer, and you certainly should include it. And there's a lot to say, and that'll be a shiur for an hour. So when you deal with slichos, you realize everything you're saying are piyutim. That's what these are. These are poems that are meant to bring you close to Hashem, and they're problematic for us because their Hebrew is difficult, their structure is difficult, their grammar is difficult. And so what I want to do is look at this one of the poems of the Selichos and see what its structure is and see what it's trying to teach us. One of those things that you can do if you're, for some reason, losing focus during the repetition of the Shemona Esrei on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is look at these piyutim and play Find the Pasuk. Right? Cover it up if you have the art scroll where they give you some of the psukim, but they don't give you all of them. And figure out where in Tanakh they're quoting when they do these poems. Okay. But here we're going to look at B'Motzai Menuchah. I gave it to you there on the sheet with my translation, going line by line. And let's take a look first at the overall structure. The first thing that I hope jumps out at you, I bolded it in an attempt to help, is the fact that after the first paragraph, you use an alphabetical acrostic, right? Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, and so on down the line. What's the goal of an alphabetical acrostic? Why is it that we do that? We start right in Tehillim, you see it, but all through our poetry, we find that we use, in praying to Hashem, we use alphabetical acrostics. What's that about? Yeah, Eliezer. To help us remember it, that could be. The one reason might be to help us remember it. Another, and this is an idea that I know I've seen, but I honestly can't remember right now where I've seen it. At this stage, my brain is like that lamp. But that is that we are using all of the tools at our disposal to appeal to Hashem. We use everything at our disposal. Every letter in the alphabet is going to be drawn into the service of God, and that's the Gemara in Brachos classically says we prefer Ashrei. Why is Ashrei considered so glorious? So one of the explanations is the fact that it uses each letter of the Aleph base, almost, but whatever. But it uses each letter of the Aleph base. That plus the fact that as the line Poseach as Yodecha, as you know. Another note: the paragraphs themselves are each made out of really 3 lines And then you have the closing line, Lishmo al harina ve'la tefillah, but you have 3 lines and then a refrain, and they stick to a constant meter and they rhyme, which is nice. The nun and the samach lines are included together, and I think the reason for that is simply because you want the total number of lines to be divisible by 3. Right? You have 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. If you're working with 3-line verses, you're stuck. So therefore, you need to lump 2 letters together, and you have that short refrain between the paragraphs, the lishmoa el harina ve'la tefillah, to listen to our song and our prayer to Hashem. More though, each paragraph has a style to it. It fits in 1 out of 2 styles. In other words, there are 2 styles throughout, 2 different approaches, and they just different paragraphs use one or the other. One, which appears in the first paragraph, the third paragraph, and the fourth paragraph, that's why I numbered them to make it easier, describes us appealing to Hashem and asking for a favorable response to our appeal, but it describes us appealing. In other words, take a look at number 1, for example. At the conclusion of rest, we have come before you first. Incline your ear from the heavens, you who dwell upon praise, to listen to the plea and to the prayer. What is our actual appeal to Hashem in that first verse? What are we actually appealing? What are we actually saying? What are we actually asking Hashem for? To listen to us. But we haven't actually asked for anything, right? We're saying, we have come to you, Hashem, please listen to what it is that we are going to say. And that's what you see in the first one. That's what you see in the third one. Please seek those who seek you when they seek your presence, and so on. And that's what you see in number 4. They cringe and tremble due to the day you arrive. I'm just going with the English. You can see the Hebrew as well. But there's no mention of what we're actually asking for. Whereas in the other ones, 2, 5, 6, 7, and 8, we actually ask for particular things. We actually make the appeal. So in the second one, what is it that we're asking Hashem to do? Come on. Protection, right. In number 5, we're asking Hashem to save us from trouble. In number 6, we're asking for forgiveness. In number 7, we're asking Hashem to turn to our cries, to find the righteous ones who cry out, and to save them. Well, maybe that one also fits the first variety, really. It really isn't that specific in the request. And then in number 8, to perform great deeds, to perform miracles on our behalf. Each of these passages draws on psukim, sometimes using them literally, and sometimes turning them a little bit. And we'll see that as we go forward into it. But at first glance, it looks like a fairly straightforward thing. In other words, each paragraph has 3 lines and then refrain. It talks about Hashem listening to our prayers. Good. What else do you really need to know? Well, the piyut actually presents a problem that we face and 3 solutions to the problem. And that's really where I want to spend our time here. What is the problem that this piyut is identifying? I see 2 problems that the piyut is identifying. Well, yeah, Meir is laughing in the back because she sees that I put it on the sheet. Fine. The problem is distance and lack of spiritual worth. Distance. Where is Hashem located in this slicha? Where do we find Hashem located? The heavens. Where do you see it? The first one, right? It says Hashem is in Marom. Hashem is up off into the heavens. Look at paragraph number 3. Hashem is Mishmei Me'onecha, up in the heavens, up in the sky. In the 6th one, Hashem is described as being in Marom. Hashem is up with the storehouse of forgiveness, which is in Zevul. It's in one of the heavens. Even in number 4, where we have the description of the day you arrive, Zochalim v'roadim miyom bo'echa, the day you arrive, it doesn't mean the day you arrive here. It means the day you arrive in court in order to judge us. That's what it's talking about in Hashem's arrival. Our first fundamental problem is that Hashem is located at a distance. What does that mean? When you say that Hashem is at a distance, what is the concern that leads to? What's the concern that is the result of Hashem being at a distance?
Not being able to access it.
Us not being able to access? Sorry?
Unreachable.
that Hashem is unreachable. He doesn't know us. He won't be sensitive to our needs, and He won't hear us. Right? Those are our concerns. That's one element of it. The other element of it is that we have nothing to offer. Right? Look at the piyut and see. Tell me, where do we see that we're saying we have nothing to offer? Starting from the second verse. What is it that we ask Hashem? What do we offer Hashem as merit? Yitzchak. The merit of the Aqeedah. Avraham and Yitzchak. Not anything we did. Right? The merit of what happened way back then. Look in the third verse and how it describes us as we appeal to Hashem. Right? What is it that we can offer? We are dorshim. We seek your presence. We long for you, Hashem. That's it. There's nothing that we have to offer, no merit, no mitzvah that we have. In source number 4, look at the description of who we are. Tinufam mecheina. We ask Hashem to erase the filth of the nation that is appealing to Him. We're guilty of sin. That's what's described. In number 5, this may be the best example. What do we ask Hashem to do in number 5? In the third line? L'chonenam chinam. We ask Hashem to give us favor for free, for nothing. We haven't actually earned it. Come on, I need you to be with me here. We ask Hashem to give it to us for free. In number 6, we describe how atzmu pish'ei kehalacha, the sins of your community have become great. And again, we ask Hashem, lachon chinam, to give to us for free, because we haven't earned it. And then at the end, we're simply asking to treat our tefillah as though it was a carbon. Because at least a carbon would be something that we had contributed. Right? Hashem, please treat it as though we had a carbon. The problems that we face when we approach Hashem, as we make this appeal for mercy, are number 1, that Hashem is fundamentally distant, that He's way up in the heavens, He's way away from us, and that we have nothing that we are able to offer to Hashem. However, the piyut is also going to offer us 3 solutions. Do you see any solutions in here? How the piyut tries to deal with the fact that we're at a distance. How the piyut tries to deal with the fact that we have nothing to contribute.
It references other events that can bridge the gap.
References events that are able to bridge the gap, and specifically the prayers of our ancestors when they were in a time of trouble. Go back to the beginning. The title of this slicha, B'motza'ei Menuchah. Motza'ei Menuchah means, as I wrote there, at the conclusion of rest. If you asked me, before analyzing this slicha, why this is here, the answer is what? What's the simple logical explanation? Motzei Shabbos, right? We start our slichos on Saturday night. It is Motza'ei Menuchah. It is after the time of rest. But is there more to say about that? The word Motza'ei, right, on this level, is at the going out of Menuchah, at the going out of rest, the conclusion of rest, as I wrote there. But what else could you do with the word Motza'ei? To find. Motz'ei, those who find Menuchah. And you will say, well, that's not grammatically correct if you're saying Motza'ei. And Ibn Ezra will say, yeah, that's why I hate piyutim. Right? If you ever want to see someone go on a rant about piyutim, open Ibn Ezra's commentary to Koheles Perek Hey Pasuk Aleph. Al tvaheles picha lachatias bisarecha. The Ibn Ezra identifies 4 reasons why he doesn't like the piyutim that were authored, as he acknowledges, by great Talmidei Chachamim. And one of those is grammar. He says they don't know Hebrew. What they did was terrible. And it was very funny because I always learned, and I always heard as a kid, that the problems of grammar that are found in the piyutim are a function of poetic license. They're trying to make things fit and convey certain messages, and this is the way you do it, by sort of massaging the words into place. But you read the Ibn Ezra, and not just Ibn Ezra, but the Rambam as well, And they say, no, that's actually not what's going on. They just don't know grammar. And even the Shibbolei Haleket, who is a defender of piyutim, his response is not to say their grammar is wonderful. His response is to say, yeah, but who really cares about grammar? You're right, the grammar's bad. Fine, deal with it. That's his response. We were discussing this on Shabbos, actually, at lunch on Shabbos. And Rabbi Ziering quoted, he's walking in and out, but he quoted an article in which somebody quoted Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman as saying that the reason why the piyutim are so non-grammatical is to show you these really aren't tefillah, lest you get confused into thinking these are part of the core davening. No, this is bad grammar. The other objections of Ibn Ezra, besides the grammar, are that they use the language of Gemara, which means it's not Hebrew. He says, Nehemiah rebuked the Jews for speaking Ashdodit. Why is it now that you're going to come to daven and you're suddenly not going to speak Hebrew to God? You're using these other languages, mixing it in. Didn't ask him what he thought about Brich Shmei. But that's another objection that he has. Another objection that he has is he says tefillah is supposed to be simple. Read Shlomo HaMelech's tefillah. It's in the 8th parak of Malachim Aleph when they dedicate the Beis HaMikdash. Shlomo's tefillah is beautiful and it's simple. You can read it, you can understand it. He says Shlomo is a good person to emulate. Why in the world did they have to come along? Rubble Asura had to come along and create piyutim that you have to investigate to understand what the parable is and what the message of the parable is and what the hidden riddle is that he's playing on words. So he doesn't like that idea either. That's a third objection that he has to it. And so he doesn't like that. I think the fourth one, if I remember correctly, was that people don't understand them when they say them. That people don't actually know what they're saying when they read the piyutim. So, sorry?
What I said the fourth one was the timing. That you're going to spend the same amount of time whether you say the piyutim or not.
Right. No, I think that's more towards the Rambam than Ibn Ezra. It could be that's in Ibn Ezra also, but that we find the Rambam. The Rambam also is very. I don't know if I can really say this, but at this point I'm so tired that it doesn't make a difference. But it seems like sort of everybody knew the Rambam didn't like piyutim, and therefore as a gag they would write him this question, because no joke, in the volumes of the Chuvos, of the response of the Rambam, you find no fewer than 5 or 6 Chuvos in which the people ask him the same question. And he gives the same response, sometimes a little harsher, sometimes a little less harsh. And the question is it okay for us to say piyutim as part of the davening? And each time the Rambam says, absolutely not, it's foolishness, you should never say it, it's an interruption of the davening, it's inappropriate. The Rambam was very against the piyutim, and it's Rabbeinu Tam who's the big defender. Yes, Meira. Yeah, and that's what the Ashkenazim tend to think. The Ashkenazim tend to think that this is actually a way to help you daven better. I mean, one of the points that I think is very important to understand is that the Sephardic objection to piyutim is not the objection that people have today. When the Rambam is against piyutim, when Ibn Ezra is against piyutim, it's not because they don't like davening and they want it to be shorter, which I think is usually why people object to piyutim bisman hazeh. What they don't like about piyutim is they love davening. And they say the piyutim are going to take you away from tefillah. That's their objection. The Rambam says, you want to know why people talk during davening? You thought this was like a new phenomenon. The Rambam says, you want to know why people talk during davening? Because you threw in all these piyutim. People think that those aren't obligatory, and they're right. And so they don't take it seriously. So while somebody else is singing, remember also, the early days of piyut, certainly until you have a printing press, who is saying the piyut? Chazan is saying the piyut. You don't have a machzor. You don't know the piyut. So you're sitting there, the chazan is going on, you're supposed to listen in and have in mind all of the hidden meanings that are embedded in there by Rubble Asura HaKalir. And the Rambam says, come on, no wonder people don't take it seriously. People should be focused on davening, and they can't because of what you have inserted in there. Ibn Ezra says, really? You should daven all the time. Tefillah to Hashem is wonderful. Everybody should be davening to Hashem at every instant for the life that He gives us and the wonderful pleasures that we have in this world. But what are you going to do? People have to go places. People have to do things. So we have a particular time that you're supposed to daven. It's easy. In the morning, afternoon, night. That's when you daven, says Ibn Ezra. And he says, if you're only going to daven at those times, you better do it right. And you're not going to do it right if you have all these piyutim clouding your mind and confusing you. Their objection is because they love davening, and they feel the piyutim are mangling it. It's not they're objecting because davening is taking too long. That's not the consideration. There's also a separate technical halachic debate, which is based on two passages of Gemara. I'm going a little bit afield, but we'll get through this piyut as well, this slicha, and we'll appreciate it, I hope. But the two technical problems with piyutim are, number one, that the Gemara says you're not supposed to add to the opening blessings of the Shemona Esrei, and you're not supposed to add to the closing blessings of the Shemona Esrei by making requests, and these piyutim do that. And the other is that the Birchos Kriya Shema, the blessings of Shema, we're told you're not supposed to add. You're not supposed to extend brachos that are supposed to be shorter, shorten brachos that are supposed to be longer. And so they object, because when you add the piyutim, you are extending short brachos. So Rabbeinu Tam says, don't worry about it. And the Gaonim said, don't worry about it. It's not only Rabbeinu Tam, Rav Natronai Gaon said, don't worry about it. They had answers to explain those Gemaras. But that's a whole other dimension to the objection. But going back here, what we are now going to do is play the Rubble Asura HaKalir game. That which Ibn Ezra and the Rambam said is clouding things for people, we're going to figure out what they're saying with their grammar. So, b'motza'ei Menuchah isn't only at the conclusion of rest, it is also, excuse me, it is also at the finding of rest. Who in the Torah finds rest? Don't look at the sheet. Who in the Torah finds rest? Oh, come now. You know the tune. Yonah, right? The dove. The dove finds rest. Yonah matzah bo manoach. Or as the pasuk says, v'lo matzah hayonah manoach l'chaf ragla. Originally, the Yonah could not find rest, and then it, hadn't yet fulfilled his mission until it found it. But the dove finds rest. The next reference, Rus. Yitain Hashem lachem umitzena menucha. Right? Naomi says to Rus and Arpa, may Hashem help you find rest. These widows of her two sons. And then finally, Eicha. Hi yashva bagoyim lo matzah manoach. The Jewish people are the ones who seek rest. By identifying these three figures, the dove in the time of the Mabul, the Rus and Arpa, well, more Rus than Arpa as far as we are concerned, and the Jews after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, what we are trying to do, I don't know that this is written by Rubble Asura HaKalir. I just said that, but I don't actually know that that's true. I should look into who wrote it. But what we're trying to do is to say that just like they sought rest, we are trying to find rest. We are the motza'ei Menuchah. We want to find rest as well, and we don't have it. We are turning to Hashem. We have come before you first as we look for it. Hat oznecha mimarom. Incline your ear, Hashem, from the heavens. That phrase, incline your ear, is a very important phrase. I give you two references in source number 3. One, Malachim Beis, chapter 19. That's from a critical moment in our history. That's the showdown, Chizkiah versus Sancherev. Right? The Assyrians have invaded. They've exiled the northern kingdom, the 10 lost tribes. They're now attacking Yerushalayim. Chizkiyahu appeals to Hashem. Hatei Hashem oznecha ushama. He says, Hashem, please incline your ear and listen. That's his tefillah, that's his prayer. And then you have this pasuk from Daniel, Hatei Elokai oznecha ushma, which of course we are familiar with from Tachanun. It makes it into Tachanun. He asks it. That also is a fascinating pasuk. That, as Abarbanel explains, is when Daniel has just received a vision that tells him that there are thousands of years until the final redemption. And at that point, he turns to Hashem and says, thousands of years? It's going to be that long that we have to wait. Hatei Hashem oznecha. He says, Hashem, incline your ear. We emulate their tefillah, we emulate their prayer, and turn to Hashem, saying, we are seeking rest. We are seeking your rescue. And we turn to you with the words that Yechezkel used. We turn to you with the words that Daniel used. And we describe Hashem here. What's the term that we use? We're still in the first verse. We're not going to get through all of the verses. Or I won't. What do we use as our term for God? He is the Yoshev Tehillah, the one who sits upon our praise. And here I gave you a reference in source number 4. Tehillim Perek Chaf Beis, the 22nd chapter of Psalms. Keli, Keli, Lama Azavtani. Sound familiar? Not only from us, right? This verse makes it becomes popular beyond us. Keli, Keli, Lama Azavtani. My God, why have you abandoned me? Right? That verse, that line, why have you abandoned me? Rachok mishuasi divrei sha'agasi. Far from my salvation at the words of my cry. Elokai ekra yomam velo sa'aneh. I call to you by day and you don't answer. V'layla, I call to you at night. Velo du miyali. There's no rest for me. Ve'ata kadosh. You are holy. Yoshev Tehilos Yisrael. The one who sits upon the praises of Israel. Yoshev Tehillah is the phrase that we used here in the Selichot. Tell me something. Who is the author of those lines in source number 4? Don't say David. Who's the author of Tehillim Chaf Beis? According to the Gemara in Yuma, Daf Chaf Ches Amud Beis. Who wrote source number 4? I didn't put it on here. Gemara in Yuma says the author of those lines is Esther. Esther is in the palace. Don't ask me, Esther writing Tehillim. Don't ask me that question. But this is attributed to Esther, which she's saying what David had said earlier. Maybe fine, but this song, or this psalm really, is Esther crying out to Hashem when she's in the palace of Achashverosh. As she walks deeper into the palace, into places of idolatry, she doesn't feel Hashem's presence. She doesn't feel God's presence. And she cries out and says, my God, why have you abandoned me? I am far from you here in the palace of Achashverosh. The Vilna Gaon, according to Maaseh Rav Reish Nun, used this chapter of Psalms as the Shir Shel Yom on Purim because of the association with Esther. Esther goes in to plead with Achashverosh, and at that point she senses she's been abandoned, and she calls Hashem Yoshev Tehilos Yisrael. That's the phrase that we use in the Slicha. What the author of this Slicha is doing is associating us with the calls of our ancestors, right? So far we've seen association with Rus, association with the dove, this righteous dove that seeks the place of rest, association as well with the Jewish people after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, association with Chizkiah calling out to Hashem versus Sancherev, association with Daniel. We draw on the precedent of our ancestors. You follow? Right? It's not too late at night for this. We can do this. You're going to say it later at night than this. You're going to say it at 1:15 in the morning. You're going to be bright and sharp. Maybe. Lishmoa el harina ve'el hatefila, and then you look at the refrain. Lishmoa el harina ve'el hatefila, to listen to the rina, which I translated here as a plea. Right? Rina is often a song. It's a word that gets used in multiple ways for different types of prayer. But rina here is being used, I believe, as a plea, and tefillah, our request, our prayer. That phrase is also loaded. Lishma la rina ve'la tefillah is loaded also. Go back to source number 5 on the flip side. Ufanisa el tfilas avdocha ve'atchinaso. This is that perek when Shlomo HaMelech appeals to Hashem. The focus of Shlomo's tefillah when he dedicates the Beis HaMikdash is to turn to Hashem and say, let this be the place where everybody is going to go. Jews will come here, non-Jews will come here, they will all come to appeal to you here. When this happens in the land, they will come to you and they will daven. When that happens in the land, they will come to you and they will daven. And you, God, are going to be the one to respond. You are going to help them. Ufanisa, in this particular line, Ufanisa al tfilas abdecha, you will turn to the prayer of your servant, ve'atchinaso, and to his plea, Hashem Elokai lishmoa el harina ve'el atfila asher abdecha mispalel afanecha hayom, hear the prayer that your servant, me, Shlomo, prays to you today. So we take Shlomo's plea. Interestingly, I actually used this in abbreviated form. I did some of this slicha in a Midreshet Yom Rishon for women a couple of years ago, and somebody listened to it online and emailed me a note, noting that Shlomo uses in that same song, Shlomo uses the phrase Ve'ata tishma min hashamayim, that you, God, will hear from the heavens 8 times, accentuating also this problem of divine distance. Interesting note. So the first way that we solve the problem of divine distance and our own lack of merit is to associate ourselves with all of these righteous prayers that came before us. Clear? Good? Okay. Second, to channel the merit of the Aqeedah. The Aqeedah, you know, is also not only the binding of Isaac, the binding of Yitzchak, but it's a form of slicha, meaning in the slichos that are said daily leading up to Yom Kippur, there actually is supposed to be each day a slicha that is about the Aqeedah, that is about the offering of Yitzchak. But take a look more closely, please, at paragraph 2. And tell me something. Paragraph 2, who is it really about? Avram, Yitzchak. All right, why Yitzchak?
The merit of the one who's bound.
The merit of the one who was bound. Eliezer, why Avram? Paragraph 2. You could say Yitzchak, but there's something else there.
The strong beat in the first line is under that.
It's probably, it could be that the first line is talking about Avram raising his hand to Shem.
Well, this is the appeal to God. Awaken your strong right as Hashem's strong right. To perform a strong deed is Hashem performing a strong deed. But, sorry? That's okay. The ram was slaughtered in his place. It's also about Avraham and his slaughtering of the ram. Flip the page to the medrash that I brought you, please. Fascinating medrash in source number 6. Vayikra elav malach Hashem en hashamayim. The malach calls out to Avraham from the heavens as Avraham is stretching out his hand. He's ready to slaughter his son. And he says, Avraham, Avraham, twice. It says Avraham twice. Tani Rabbi Chiya. Rabbi Chiya is bothered. Why do you say Avraham twice? Once wasn't enough. You had to say Avraham twice. So Lashon Chiba, an expression of affection. You double the name. Avraham, Avraham, my beloved Avraham. Lashon Ziruz, an expression of urgency. Avraham, wait, don't do it. Those are 2 explanations. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Amar Lo Uladoros. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says something that is incredibly powerful. Not germane necessarily for our point, but you can't read this medrash without noting it. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says he is calling once for Avraham then, and once for all of the future Avrahams who are going to be in a position of sacrificing their children. Ein dor she'ein bo ka'Avraham, ve'ein dor she'ein bo k'Yakov, ve'ein dor she'ein bo k'Moshe, ve'ein dor she'ein bo k'Shmuel. All of those names are people who are called by their name twice in Chumash or in Navi, in the prophets. Meaning, Avram is called Avraham, Avraham. Yaakov is called that way also. Moshe is called that way also. Shmuel is called that way also. Each of them is called with a double call to say there's going to be someone like that in the future. It's a very strong statement, and it's an important statement, which I don't have time to unpack properly right now, but I wanted to mention it in terms of Avraham. He's saying there are going to be future Avrahams who are going to try to slaughter their children. That's what you're predicting. And they're going to be called out from Hashem as well. But he says to him, Vayomer, Al tishlach yadcha. Don't send forth your hand. Don't send forth your hand. What do you mean your hand? It's not your hand that's posing the threat, you know. right? It's the knife that's posing the threat. The Medrash always picks up on things like that. It's nuances of language that Medrash grabs onto. What do you mean, don't send forth your hand? Don't send forth the knife. V'sakin hechon haya. Where's the knife? Nashru shalosh demos mimalachei hasharis v'shiches hasakin. The angels cried and destroyed the knife. What in the world that means is a really good question. I can't answer that question. The Medrash is saying the angels destroyed the knife. But now look what happens. Amar le, Avraham says, Ach nekenu, I don't have a knife anymore, so let me strangle him. No, al tishlach yadcha el hanar, don't send forth your hand to the kid. Amar le, otzi mimenu tipas dam, he says, let me just bring one drop of blood. Amar lo al tas lo mi'uma, do not do anything to him. Al tas lo muma, don't create a blemish in him. Mi'uma, muma. Ki ataya dati, I'm sorry, actually pause there for a second. He says to Avraham, I don't want you to do anything to him. And Avraham keeps insisting, there's got to be something that I can do. That's what's bothering the Medrash is simply the prolix language that is used in calling out to Avraham. Right? Al tishlach yad chol anar, val tas lo me'uma. Why do you have to say all of those things? Say don't do it, that's it, you're done. And the answer is because Avraham is pushing, says the Medrash. Ki ataya dati, now I know, Hashem says, that you love me. The Medrash is bothered. God always knew. What are you talking about? So it reads it not as yadati, but hodati. Now the world has been informed. Hodati lakol sha'ato ohavani. Now everybody knows that you love me. V'lo chasachto es bincha es yechidcha mimeni. You didn't withhold your son, your only son. Leave aside the Ishmael question. From me. And the Medrash continues to say, Shalo tomar kol hachaloim shechutz leguf einan chaloim ela mali ani alecha ki lo amarti lecha akrev atzmacha li v'lo ikavta. I consider it as though I had asked you to bring yourself before me as a sacrifice. Lest anybody say, well, you were sacrificing somebody else. I know better. What you were doing was you were willing to give yourself to me. Now, the Aqeedah needs its own discussion. The whole business of the Aqeedah, of the sacrifice, needs its own discussion, and what Hashem wanted, and so forth. But what I wanted to show you here, in this Medrash, is Avraham's desire to give. He wants to give something to God. Going back to the end of the parenting shiur, for those who were here at that point, he wants to give Hashem something. A sense of something. There has to be something I can do, something I can provide. I don't have a knife anymore, I'll do it this way. I can't kill him, so let me do this. It's perverse in the sense that, it's his own son here. It's Yitzchak. Like that's troubling. But the message that we're supposed to get is that Avraham wants to do something. And source number 7, you find it in shorter form in Bamidbar Rabbah. Amar Avram says, Ribon ha'olamim, master of the universe. Efsharli lered mikan below karban. He says, I can't leave here without a karban. I have to give you something. Amar LaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says, that's okay. Harei karbancha mitukan misheshes yimei bereishis. The carbon's been set already. Since creation, the carbon's been available. Vayisa Avram es einav, and Avram raised his eyes and he saw the ram. The ram that we're talking about here in this verse is not simply the substitute for Yitzchak. The ram is representative of the generosity of Avraham, his longing to give something to Hashem. Why does Avraham insist on giving something to Hashem? I mean, I just said Avraham's generosity, he wants to give. But there's more than that, I think. You could take it, I'm now going to go back to the first shiur that I gave today, the second in our cycle, where we talked about the issue of giving. We talked about the case in which a person has stolen and is not able to restore it to the victim of his theft. The victim is dead and there is no estate and so forth. And we said there that there is an obligation for the thief to get the money out of his hands. And it doesn't matter to whom he gives it. He can use it to pay off a debt. He can benefit from what he does. But get it out of your hands. There has to be an act of handing it to somebody else. There has to be an act of giving it away. And we tied it into a Gemara. The Gemara in Sanhedrin, which I quote here in source number 8, kapara bichdi lo ashkachan. You can't have atonement for nothing. There must always be a deed. You have to do something. And not only in the realm of atonement, but in the realm of standing before Hashem. Take a look at source number 9, please. Gemara and Yuma. You can see we're rapidly making it towards the end of the sheet. I'm going to hand out another one. No. The Gemara in Yuma talks about entering the Kodesh Kadashim. Look what it says. Lo nasan bah male ashan. If you don't put in the ingredient called ma'ale ashan, which presumably raises smoke from the incense, o shechiser achas mikol samaneha, or if you subtract any ingredient from the incense, chayav misa is liable for death. So the Gemara says, "V'tepukle de kama'ayel bia rekanis," to which the Gemara says, well, why isn't he liable for entering empty-handed? And the answer is, it's talking about where he entered accidentally, but he illegally burned the incense knowingly. The point that I wanted to draw from this Gemara in Yuma is that there is a prohibition against entering the Kodesh Kadashim empty-handed. You don't go before God with nothing to offer. Right? Shades of V'lo yera efonai parshas re'eh reikam. You don't show up empty-handed before God for aliyah l'regel. To stand before Hashem in any format means to offer something, demonstrating knowledge that everything belongs to God. You want to stand before God. You better have something that you want to give. And to me, that's why we invoke the Aqeedah. We have acknowledged that we believe we have nothing worthy to give. We already said that in the beginning when we framed the problem. I don't have anything to offer God. I ask l'chanano chinam. I ask God, give me something for nothing. So how can I do that? Well, I have an ancestor who gave something meaningful. I have an ancestor who stood before you and pleaded with you for the opportunity to give something until you showed him the ram, and that was what he gave. I may not have anything to give, but I'm part of a family that has given. So that to me is the second element of this. The first part of the solution for the problem is to invoke ancestors who also sought a place of rest as we seek a place of rest. The second piece of it is to channel the merit of the Aqeedah. I have nothing to give, but I have these others. I have Avraham, and Avraham gave. And then the third is an appeal to Hashem to take on his more personal role with us. Take a look, please, at the last source on the sheet, source number 10. Don Isaac of Barbanel, writing on Shmuel Aleph on Chana. Chana says in her song, Al tarbu ledaber gvoha gvoha. Don't speak gvoha gvoha. In the literal sense, what she's saying is, don't be arrogant. Don't speak in haughty, elevated ways. These people who mocked me because I didn't have any children and so forth, don't speak in such arrogant ways. That's the simple read of her sentence. But Abarbanel says something here. He says, V'haya la'omer sheyomar. I shouldn't assume that people know the story, but the story of Chana, she's unable to have children. She comes before the Mishkan. She davens for children. Ultimately, she challenges Hashem, and she has a child, Shmuel, who she dedicates to the service of Hashem. V'haya la'omer sheyomar she'inyan le'dasah sabeteva v'lo misibas hakel yisbarach. He says, you might say, okay, so she wasn't able to have kids for a long time, and then she was able to have children. It happens in the natural course of things. That can happen. It wasn't because God engineered anything. Shu lihiyoso nivdal mehachom riyus. Because God is apart from all that is material. V'gavoa me'al gavoa. He's way, way up in the heavens. V'lo yashkiach v'lo yeda hadvaram hashfelim ha'elev lo yisbonin bahem. What does God know of all the mundane matters of this world? What does God know of the things that are going on between human beings and their personal crises? He doesn't contemplate these things. Lazeh ratzasa lahodia shezo be'emes machshava nifsedes. Says Abarbanel, what Chana wants to say is that is a fundamental mistake. That is an incorrect way of looking at God. Ki hinei ha'elokai yisbarach im heyoso kadosh v'nivdal. You're right, Hashem is holy. You're right, Hashem is apart. That's true. Amra, ein biltecha, but she said, there is no one like you, Rotzalomar, ki ein kadosh biltiakel. There is no one who is holy other than God, and holiness indicating being at a distance. Aval im horas ha'akdama hazos, but with that preface, having said Hashem is holy and apart and elevated and above, nonetheless, al tarbu tidabru givoha. Don't say God is above. Rotzalomar shu gavoa me al gavoa pnei lo yashgichu, or lo yashgicho. Don't say that since Hashem is elevated, he's too far, he doesn't see my troubles. He didn't see what was going on. Eino chen, it ain't so. V'al tishu b'divrei shaker, and don't look into falsehood. Divrei apilosofim, the words of these philosophers who say that God is too remote. V'al tisasku b'chakirosehem, don't involve yourselves with their investigations, and so on. Abarbanel tells us there, Hashem may be elevated and lofty, but he's not beyond our world. He's not unconcerned with our world. He's not insensitive to the problems that we experience. This plays out in the first three brachos of Shmona Esrei, each of which, especially during the period between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, identifies Hashem as Melech, identifies Hashem as King. Think about it. Avos. What do we say to describe God in the first bracha of Shmona Esrei? Melech, Ozer, Umoshia, Umagen. He helps us, he rescues us, he is our shield. Hashem is immanent, he is close to us. Then you get to Gevuros, which describes the might of Hashem, and he's Meimis Umechayeh. He has the power to cause death, he has the power to bring life. Still engaged with our world, but on this very lofty level, as opposed to the rescuer, as opposed to the shield. And then the third one, Hamelech or Hakel, HaKadosh. Kadosh already connotes holiness and loftiness, and he's at a distance. We have this recognition that there is, in the way that Hashem relates to us, there are times when he is close in proximity, and there are times when he is at a remove in the way that we sense him, but we believe that the capacity for him to watch and to care is always present. And that's what we do back in this Selichot. Go back to the first side, please. We ask Hashem to draw close and to provide the protection that we seek. And so in the first one we say, hat oznecha, incline your ear. In the second one we say, gnona giz'o, protect his seed, the seed of Yitzchak there. In number 3 we say, al ta'alem oznecha, do not let your ear ignore us, don't let your ear be deaf. And so on throughout, we ask Hashem repeatedly to listen. We try to draw Hashem near. Now, asking God to be more personal is insufficient. If we don't daven and do what we're supposed to do, right? If we don't try to draw near, then who are we to ask God to draw near? You have to make the attempt also. But what this Selichot is trying to do, and this is what I want to show you here, is that all of this is embedded in the Selichot, which we could say and be gone and be done with and never even notice that we said it. The Selichot is about much more than just an appeal written in a nice way with 3 lines, 3 lines, 3 lines, 3 lines, and a nice chorus to go with it, and we can sing it all together and so forth. What this is trying to do, what this poem is trying to do, is to express theological problems. The question of, how can God relate to me? How can I relate to God, but how can God relate to me when he is so holy and he is so distant from everything that is going on? How am I supposed to appeal to Hashem when I have nothing to offer? And the answer that it gives us, these 3 elements of the answer that I see within the Selichot, which you can take through the rest of the Selichot as well, is that we ask Hashem we identify with the prayers that our ancestors gave in times of trouble. We channel the merit of the Aqeedah, and we appeal to Hashem to take on this more personal role. So when we say the Selichos, it's for us to try to get a better understanding of that message and to keep in mind these 3 solutions that are involved, identifying with our ancestors' prayers, channeling the merit of the Aqeedah, and asking Hashem to take on that more intimate role. And if we do that, and not only focus on that as part of the prayer, but also make ourselves worthy of it, then, God willing, we will earn a ksiva v'chasima tova. Shkayach. I don't want to cheat people, though. We have like 10 minutes still, right? It's 11:49. Uh-oh. What do? Well, there are a few possibilities. One is to talk about the piyutim a little bit more. I don't know if people want to go to sleep. I don't want to force them to stick around. All right, I'm going to call it with that. I'm not going to try to overextend it. Shkoach. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you for watching at home. Thank you for participating in the 18-hour shiur. Thank you very much. I was sure I was going to be sitting here myself for the last hour. I hope that it was worth it for you to stay up for it and learn b'motzai Menuchah. Thank you very much, and good night.